All right, so I'm gonna go through lots of things involving a quadratic equation. So this is a quadratic equation because x has highest power of 2. So this can be written in standard form like this: ax squared plus bx plus, and of course there's always functions. They have that x is independent variable, and also there's a dependent variable which is y. It's like this. There are sorry about that. There are times that you see this equal to 0 instead of y, and I'll explain it throughout why we have 0 there. So why is that? Right now, if you compare this one, you see that it's not in that form. So you have to make it in that form. Ax squared plus bx plus c. That's what I'm talking about. So here you have 20x squared. That's ax squared. That's that part. And you have 15 with no x. That's the c part. Looking at the first one, there's 20. That's the a. This is the c. Or c. And then this is c. And then b is on the other side of the equation. That I need to move it and put them together. So I need to bring 40x to the right. Since this is positive, I'm gonna subtract 40x. See, subtract 40x. So let me get rid of this line so you don't get confused. So subtract 48, you need to subtract from both sides. When you have an equation, if you do something on one side, you need to do the same thing on the other side. This is summation line. If you sum the left side together, right side together, draw the summation line. So left side, we made it opposite to get rid of 40x. So this cancels from 0, right? And then equal to, on the right hand, we have now 20x squared. So I'm going to make it in order. That's ax squared, 20x squared. That's a. We talked about this a. And then minus 40x is the next one. That's b. bx. This is b. That's a. This is not division line. I'm just showing you what they are. And then plus 15. See? So now we have this in that form with the exception of what? Y is equal to 0. I will tell you why that is. So anytime that you want to graph these equations, I'm going to change this problem for right now. Instead of 0, I'm just going to set it up y equal to 20x squared minus 40x plus 15. And later on, I'll tell you why we put 0 there sometimes. Okay? So, first of all, this is called a quadratic equation. And if you graph it as a parabola, you're going to get parabolas like that. Like this, or like this, like this. Could be anywhere, or cutting axis, or like that. These are all parabolas, right? So if you graph this, you're gonna get parabolas like that. And then do you see here some of these parabolas are intersecting the x-axis. That's x-axis, and this is y-axis, and some of them don't. Like this doesn't intersect x-axis because it goes down, and it's never gonna intersect x-axis. But this one, you see, even though it doesn't show, but it will intersect x-axis because these are parabolas continue like that. Which actually it's better to make it like this. I can write more. So see here, this one, even though it doesn't show, I was telling, it doesn't show that it intersects x-axis, but it does because there's an arrow here. It continues. So if you continue, you see that it's going to intersect x-axis at these 2 points. This one obviously shows intersect the x-axis. And the same thing here. So when they intersect x-axis, those points, like this point, is called x-intercept. That's an x-intercept. And then what does it mean, x-intercept? Let me tell you. If you have a point, for example, here, and I ask, what is the coordinates of that point? What you're going to say? You're going to say it's 1, 2, 3, 4. X value is 4, and y value is 1, 2, right? You can say coordinates of that point is equal to 4 and 2. And if someone else has what's coordinates of this point, you're going to say x value is 2 and y value is nothing going up or down, 0, 2 and 0. You see that same thing here. So when you have this x-intercept here, same as this case, there's a number for x. So there's a number, there's a number for x, which we don't know what it is. I'm going to name it x-intercept. But there's a number, obviously, we know what it is for y. Look at this one. So any point on the x-axis has a y value of 0, you see? Same thing here, so y value of that is 0. So anytime they say find x-intercept, you know that you should remember that, put y equal to 0. So that's what happened here. So when you have this equal to 0, means you're solving for x-intercept. Cool? So now this equation right here becomes what we have 0 equal to 20x squared minus 40x plus 15. So anytime you see that this is equal to 0, means if you solve this, if you factor it and solve it, you're solving for x equal to some numbers. Two numbers, right? Could be same, could be different. And sometimes there's no number. Back then, we've done some kind of problems, and sometimes you see that there's no solution. When you factor and solve it, you get no solution. No solution clearly means these, like this one. This will never intercept x-axis. It's not going to come back down again in this parabola. It doesn't intersect x-axis, means no solution. So if you factor this, for example, and you cannot find the number for x, means no solution. That doesn't mean that nothing is there. Yes, there is. It's a parabola like that, or like this, or like this. All of these, none of these are intersecting the x-axis. They say no solution means it doesn't intersect the x-axis for this kind of problems. Cool. And sometimes when you do it, you get x equal to two numbers. You get same. For example, you get x equal to 2, x equal to 2, same number you get. What does it mean? It means that you have x-intercept is same place. See, every parabola, you see all these cases, they have two places intersect. 2 here, 2 here. But for this case, it's 1. How is that possible? It means your parabola is touching the x-intercept at one point. So that's why we have two tubes. So it touches, it doesn't cross, it doesn't pass. Cool? And then most of the time when you solve it, of course, you're going to get two numbers for your kind of like algebra 1 type of students. Like x equal to 2 and x equal to 3 means there are two places, like 1, 2, 3. These are two places. The parabola intersects it. So you can have a parabola like this. Or going up, doesn't matter. This is concave down. It could be up. So you see the two places, 2 and 3. Cool? So now, what will we do when we have a question like this? The purpose is to find the x-intercept. So when you do this, so when you solve for x, here you are finding the x-intercept, right? If it exists. If no solution, then there's no x-intercept. Sometimes they call it roots. Sometimes they call it zeros. This we're gonna see this in algebra 2, or in Glendale integrated math 2, probably in 3 also. So roots and zeros. So these are also called roots and then zeros. Then factors. Then this kind of involve factoring. When you factor this like that, so the factor, and then so we're gonna go with that. So right now let's move on to solve this. So 0 equal to, that's what you have, 20x squared minus 40x plus 15. And recently they started doing this rectangle and diamond method to factor these things out. Okay, so this is in a standard form. That's awesome. We have ax squared plus bx plus c. And then what do? We want to factor it. But before we factor it, let's do this. try to make common factor. Find common factor and get rid of it, because it's going to make the problem smaller and easier. If you see here, there's something in common. 5 is in common, so you can factor 5. If you try this on your own, you see that it's going to be harder than the next that I'm trying. So I'm going to factor 5 from all these. This is the first level of factoring before we even move on to this. First level of factoring is just common factor. It's opposite of distribution. We've talked about this before. So factor 5 from here. So you get 0 equal. Factor 5 like that. Factoring means now division. It's opposite of multiplication and distribution. So you're going to say 20x squared divided by 5. So 20 divided by 5 is just 4. So 20x squared will be 4x squared. Now negative 4x, 40x divided by 5, negative divided by positive is negative. 40 divided by 8 is 40 divided by 5 is just 8. Yes, 8x. 8 divided by 5 here. Positive 3 because that's positive. And then see, that's what you have. Now you can get rid of this 5 easily. You might not have this case, this more complicated case. Just from the beginning, it was more complicated because we needed to make this into ax squared plus bx plus c form. So we move them around. So this problem has lots of involvement. Probably when you do problem, you're not going to see this. It's less problem, it's less steps involved. So this makes it right now. You see that this 5x. So I'm going to get rid of this 5 by dividing both sides by 5. Why do that? See, it's multiplication here. These two multiply together, so I can get rid of this 5. If it's you can't do that. Lots of students get confused with that. 5 divided by 5, 1. 5 divided by 5, 1. So that's 1 and 0 divided by 5 here is just 0. So 0 equal to 40x squared minus 8x plus 3. So we compare this with this one. You see that number are much smaller and it's easier to factor that. So let's factor that. Using a rectangle and diamond. So show me what number goes here. 4x squared, right? So let me change these numbers, right? So here, this one goes over there. So the first thing diagonal, 3, right? And then over here, you have multiplication on the diamond section of it up. You're going to put this, right? No, right? That's not the case. You need to multiply these because it's less fixed. So when you have the rectangle, these two, that, and cross. But in diamond case, product of these two is which is 12x squared, and the bottom is going to sum. So this is the product. Product of A and C with the x squared, of course. X squared and C. It's going to be 4x squared times 3. And then over here is just this middle term, bx squared, which is the sum. Now you'll know why we call it sum. That's negative 8x. Okay, so you're going to say what two numbers you multiply. Here's the work starting. You're going to say what two numbers you multiply, you get 12. Ignore x squared. And when you add them, you get negative 8. Ignore x. So what two numbers, let me erase this. What two numbers you multiply, you get 12. And you add them, you get negative 8. First thing is start with 12. What two numbers you multiply, you get to list them, 1 and 12. But since this is negative, of course, either both of, and product is positive, this is positive 12. When you multiply, you get positive number. Either both of these should be positive or both of these should be negative, right? But this sum determines that it's this case. Both of these should be negative because if you add them, you get negative. So that's the sum we're talking about. Sum of two numbers should be negative 8. Product of those two numbers should be 12. So both should be negative. Okay, ignore this. Now, so negative 1 and negative 12. right? So start from the small one. 1 times 12 is 12. In this case, negative 1 times negative 12 is 12. But if you add them, you get negative 13. So it's not negative 8. Then move on. Add to the 1. Make it 2. Move on to next number, 2. 2 times what number is 12? 2 times 6, right? But since it's negative, so negative 2, as we talked, they both should be negative. Negative 2 and negative 6. Now easily we found that the second try, negative 2 and negative 6, if you add them, you get negative 8. If you multiply, you get 12. Remember, I told you if you want to try that with this one, that would have been harder. 20x squared, negative 40x. Numbers would have been bigger and it would have been harder. Now easily found. So that's why we went through this division. Factoring 5, here as I said, factoring 5 and dividing by 5. So we found the numbers, those are negative 2 and negative 6. But if you multiply, you're gonna get negative 8 and negative 12, right? So, but since you have x squared involved in negative 2x and negative 6x. See here, these two area, those are the two numbers that you add them, you get this, and you multiply them, you get this. Now you're gonna need those to put them into diagonal here in the rectangle. Negative 2x and negative 6x. Right? Now, we're going to say x squared. X squared. 4x squared. What two numbers multiply to 4x squared? 4 times 2. X is of course involved, right? But it cannot be 1 and 4 because if you put 1 here and then 4 here, then you have 6 here. So, next step over here, you have to think over here, you have to think if that's 4, this is 4. They say 4 times what number is 6, you get a fraction. It gets messy, so try the easier one. It's just 2 and 2. See how much of it actually. So 2x and 2x. If you multiply easily, you get 4x squared, right? And if this is 2x, this is 2x. If this is here 2x, that's 2x because it's a rectangle. Opposite sides of a rectangle are equal. Now, become 2x, what number you need to put here? You multiply by 2x, you get negative 2x, it's negative 1, right? So if this is negative 1, it's negative 1. Now this rectangle, this one side, what the numbers multiply, you get 3. One of them is negative 1, the other one is still negative 3, right? So negative 3 times negative 1, these two is going to give you area of this rectangle to 3. This is called area of model also. Negative 1 times negative 3 is equal to 3, that checks. X times negative 1 is negative 2x, that checks. X times 2x equals to x squared, that checks. Everything is good. Now let's check last one. Now we're going to check both. Since this is negative 3, that should be negative 3. And if we multiply by 2x, we should get negative 6x, and we get it. There it is. That checks also. The last one, if we hit it wrong, then we have to go back and change the numbers. So we're done. Now, here, I'm going to go further what the problem is about. I've explained it. Actually, write it in product form and sum form. If they ask, write this in sum form, it was already in sum form before we had it. It's right here. This is called summation form or sum form. 4x squared minus 8x plus 3. That's sum form. Why we say sum form? Because, see, let me highlight this. If you add this, 4x squared is that one, minus 2x and minus 6x is the negative x is that one. And plus 3, you add. That's sum form of this area model. But our purpose is to find x-intercept. Let's go back. Our purpose is to find x-intercept of this problem, right? So we cannot use the sum form to find x-intercepts unless you use quadratic formulas and stuff. Negative b plus minus like that. B squared minus 4ac over 2a and other methods that's equal to a to solve for x. But we're trying this lesson. This is the purpose is to do product form and use zero product property. What is zero product property? Zero product property means what two numbers you multiply So you get two numbers or 10 numbers, doesn't matter. All these boxes mean they can be numbered inside. Equal to 0. As long as you know product means multiplication. That's multiplication. Multiplication of numbers is equal to 0. It means at least one of these. At least one of these boxes inside and then the number should be 0 to make this whole thing 0. So we're using that property. So if you have something like this, like x plus 3 times x minus 3 equals 0, right? You see, these are two rectangles or boxes. These two boxes multiplied is equal to 0. It means either this is equal to 0, that's x plus 3 is equal to 0, or x minus 3 equal to 0, right? Either one of them, if either one of them is equal to 0, the result is 0. So we set it up, you say, oh, x plus 3 equal to 0, set it up equal to 0 and solve it. You see x equal to negative 3. If x is equal to negative 3 and plug it here and here, the whole thing is going to be 0. See, put negative 3, that's negative 3 plus 3 is 0. Put negative 3 here, it's going to be negative 6. But negative 0 times negative 6 is equal to 0. So we're using this property. That's why we want to change this sum. We don't want it having sum form. We want to have it in product form. And we already got it. This is the product form. We got it here from this rectangular model. Rectangular model. So we have 2x minus 1 is this. The x and negative 1. So x minus 1 is one factors. The other factor, the other one is 2x minus 3 over here. X minus 3. So see, this times this equal to 0. That's so this is the sum form, and that's product form. So I'm going to write that 2x minus 1 and 2x minus 3. 2x minus 1 and 2x minus 3 equal to 0. And then you set it up, as I said, as a product of these two, multiplication of these two equal to 0. So everyone should be 0. 2x minus 1 equal to 0. To solve this, x should be equal to 1 over 2. I'm just not sure that because that's really low level math now. 2x minus 3 equal to 0, solve that 3 and divide by 2. So x will be equal to 3 over 2. So these are x-intercepts. X-intercept, x-intercept. Okay. Now, what does it mean? It means your parabola has a 1 over 2. That's 1, 2, 3. 1 over 2 is right here. 2 is 1.5. It's right here. That's the exact number there. So it's a parabola like this. Like, for example, like this. So now in this lesson, I'm going to make it as complete as possible. We want to know more stuff about this problem. We want to know what is this point. It's called vertex. And we want to know y-intercept. That's called y-intercept. We just found these 2 points. They're x-intercept. And that helped us even to graph this. But we want to know what is y-intercept, y-intercept, which is this one, and vertex, which is this one. So again, I'm going to need my original problem, which was now this one. So it doesn't matter. I can go just to the original, which is this one, 20x squared minus 40x plus 15. 20x squared. To get the original 20x squared minus 40x plus 16. That's it. Now, I'm not just solving. This problem said solve. There was a 0 involved. So they made this equal to 0. Originally, if we move this to the right side, we get this. And then, but I'm relating that problem to much more complete problem to graph it and also find y-intercept, which is this one, and vertex. So that's why I put the y in front. Now, because if you put the 0 in front, that's going to help you to find, as I said, these points, x-intercept. All right? So, how to find the vertex? To find the vertex, first you need to find this axis of symmetry. Is this. That's axis of symmetry. So axis of symmetry has an x value, x equal to some number. So we want to find that. What is that x equal to that number? What is that? How are we going to find that? It's the axis of symmetry. X equal to negative b over 2a. You need to memorize this formula. Negative b over 2a. There's a different method, I'll tell you that too. But you need to know this formula. So plug negative b over 2a. When you find x, then substitute x into the function, find y. Because vertex has x and y. X value and y value. We want to find this x and y value. So you're going to find x. This axis of symmetry here that I was talking about is the same x value for the vertex. And then y value x equals negative b over 2a. So let's set it up. X equal to negative b. This is negative b, which is negative of negative 40, which is going to be positive 40 over 2a. 2 times 20. See, 2 times that's equal to 1. X equal to 1. You got it. That's x equal to 1 right here. Right there. So, and then now you don't have y. So set up and put this x into the function here instead of x and instead of x. So what you're going to get? You're going to get y equal to 20 times 1 to the second power minus 40 times 1 plus 15. So what is that? I mean, 1 squared is 1 times 20 is 20 minus 40 plus 15. If you add them, you get what? 20 and 15 is 35 minus 40. So it's going to be negative 5. Right? Y equal to negative 5. So that's y equal to negative 5 goes here. Now we found the vertex. We found the vertex. Here's the vertex is what? 1 and negative 5. See that value means this y value is negative 5. So that's how you find the vertex. And then last thing here, we want to find y-intercept. What is this y-intercept? So as I explained before, when they're asking what is x, how to find x-intercept, you need to find y equal to 0, because I just said it here, any point on the x-axis has a y value 0. From y-intercept, put x equal to 0, means any point on the y-axis has an x value of 0. So if in this problem, it was 20x squared minus 40x plus 15, let's say y equal to that, and they asking you from y-intercept, what you're going to do? To find y-intercept, x equal to 0. So that's going to be 20 times 0 squared minus 40 times 0 plus 15. And this is simple. Now, you see, you're going to find the pattern here. 0 cancels everything, only the c left. So always the c is equal to y-intercept. Remember ax squared plus bx plus c, so it makes c equal to y-intercept. So y-intercept is equal to that, so y, because we put x equal to 0, so y is equal to 15. So that means this is 15. So we got it. So we got y-intercept, we got vertex, we got x-intercept, we did the complete problem. Even though this problem wasn't asking that, they were asking to solve it, so be careful. When they give you 0 equal, when they give you an equation like this and y is not there, you just have to factor it and find x. But when they have y equal to some number, y equal to 2x squared, 20x squared minus 40x minus 15, then most probably you're going to ask for x-intercept or y-intercept or vertex and graph all of these things. So I'll explain everything in this problem. Okay? All right, that's going to conclude this. Try some problems and hopefully you can do the problems now on your own.